The do's and don'ts. Do, quote, do, paraphrase, don't plagiarize. Plagiarism has always brought about a bit of confusion in terms of understanding and interpreting, and in terms of our associated behaviors as students, as learners, as scholars, as future professionals and writers. Sometimes we have done it intentionally. It's not that important, it's just a web page. I don't see any author here. Click, copy, paste, it's so easy to do. By the way, most cases of plagiarism occur when we copy paste from the internet, which is the easiest source to identify as plagiarism. I mentioned girl and boy because academic integrity has also been associated with boys and girls. Boys are more cheaters than girls. The reality is that that is not the case anymore. And sometimes it's some cultural emphasis. Sometimes it's country specific. Sometimes it's even discipline specific. I was talking to somebody from business 2 semesters ago. He says, you know what's happening now? Because we are combining this business and informatics, we're starting to get a lot of people plagiarizing codes. We start thinking about just text, right? A beautiful story, a poem, a song, a scientific finding, but all of a sudden we're plagiarizing code that is used for developing information systems, programs. We are here at Texas Tech in one way or another because individually we have made the commitment to be successful in our fields. And one of the most important elements in academics to be successful is the ability to write well, free from error, free from, and I'll just click on these guys right here. Some of you guys are focusing on this right now. Grammar, content, structure, spelling. The consequences of not being able to hit the mark here, it's not that bad. You might get a bad grade, a low grade. You might be sent to the writing center. You might have to do it over. It's painful and it's tedious and you got to go back and correct it, but you're learning. The consequences of making a mistake here, where you're not using paraphrasing and quoting, may be detrimental. Because if you misspelled a word or you missed out on the content, you did not understand what the instructor was expecting from you, that's okay. You can retake that paper and take a low grade. Or take the class again if it was that bad. But it's just that. But the alternative, plagiarizing, cheating, and getting caught, cheating, period, also getting caught, may encourage a phone call, an email, a conversation with the instructor. What is it that you're doing here? Why are you doing this? We are going to go to speak to the people who are responsible for doing this. We're going to have a conversation. And we may consider dropping you out of this course. Or kicking you out of the university, as I've heard some instructors. And you will never be able to get back into any university in the United States again. I've heard that conversation. And there it was, and sometimes they were inadvertent, unintentional. And all the effort and all the willingness and struggles to make it disappear for some mistake that may have been intentional, may have been unintentional. The first one is probably the most important. We need to learn and we need to practice and we need to put it in our hearts that when we read something to learn, we need to read to understand. Sometimes we simply read something to take from it and put it in our paper. We find for something that agrees with our thoughts. So I'm looking at how people build buildings. And I just need somebody that says, and they use woods and nails. And so I'm looking for the article that says they use wood. And then when I find it, I take that and I say, Schmidt, 2015 says that wood and nail is used in the buildings. But I did not read the entire article. I failed from being a scholar. I failed from being an inquisitive mind that's interested in learning and understanding, because if I would have read the entire article, there's probably so much more that would have been able to pull out and put on my paper. The first thing we need to do is we need to read. We need to read for understanding. And we are here at the university, we are here at school, where this is probably the most important element, and one of the things that we can be focused on the most. And many times we get a little bit lazy because there's something other interesting events or elements or something else is going on that distracts us, and we don't read for understanding so much that we read for understanding. There are some techniques, and these are techniques. Change word order. Somebody got in trouble because they changed a couple of words in a sentence. They changed the order slightly. So it's not enough to just apply one of these techniques. So we need to understanding, change word order. We also need to use synonyms or change words. Now the only way that we can do that is if we have read for understanding. Because if you run into that tricky word and you simply use it because it was the easiest one to put on because it was on the paper, and we simply used it again, but we then realized that there were many other words that said the same thing, and we missed out on that opportunity to tell the world that you're a scholar, a thinker, an educated individual that understand these things, and you use the same words from the text. You became vulnerable to plagiarism, and you avoided paraphrasing. Change the use of numbers. How does this work? The author said in 1971, the earthquake hit California, Los Angeles, with a 7.2 magnitude. Can somebody change that number and tell me the same story? Right now. Yes, somebody can.
In the early 70s.
In the early 70s. Awesome. That's what when I talk about how old I am, I refer to that as the decade of, or sometimes a time frame. 4 decades, I almost said 3 decades ago. I almost cheated myself from 10. 4 decades ago. Yeah, so we can change that number. Change sense and structure, use different connecting words. Do not change key terms. The key term is what you do not want to change because it's vital to the text. Now you can, or you might find some entire passages that do not have key words. But if you're speaking specifically about an illness, a disease, a concept, a theory, so if you're talking about Bandura's self-efficacy, you could use alternative words to describe or to define. But every time you refer to self-efficacy, would you look for something else? There's only 2 words to go together that refer to what Bandura was referring to, and those 2 words are self-efficacy. Do not change those. Make sure you give credit. Second, probably the most important one. I probably should have put that in font 48. Take that one in your heart, because in the worst of the circumstances, if you wrote something and you put citation and you still made a mistake in the process, you might have an argument. You may still go down, if you ever have this conversation with somebody, you may still go down the path of I made a mistake, I forgot. I copy pasted that, I cited, it was my intention to get back to the original text and change it, but in how many pages in the dissertation? 150 to 200, 300, I've seen 500-page dissertations. I made a mistake. But the name was there. The name was there. There's some saving grace. Now, don't do that. But still, if it were to get to that point, cite. Let the world know where this came from. Tell them. Tell your reader. Give credit where credit is due. Let's try this one. When I look at awareness of cognitive, awareness, alternatives for awareness.
Consciousness.
Can we repeat that?
Consciousness.
Okay. How about cognitive? Where cognitive functions occurring? Here.
Point.
right? And the mind. Very good. The brain. Mental, right? Yep. We could use that. How about potential of dance education? Could we say benefits to mental functions or faculties? The potential of dance education in the schools may make it a welcome to many former skeptics, people that doubt, people that didn't believe, people that thought, you know what, why are we doing dance in the schools? But dance in the schools, dance, opening up the mind of children, making them better. Dance. I understand that this is important in our public schools. We teach people recovering from trauma. Dance, express yourself. We'll take those people that said this is not beneficial to our students in the school and convince them because you tell them that. Mental faculties, right? The worst idea would be just to rewrite the entire thing in our text because it looks good, because we got lazy, because we were in a rush, because we made a mistake. So scratch out alternative one. According to Hannah, 2008, this comes a little bit closer, right? I said according, remember that I said there's a little bit of saving grace if you cite. So I'm citing according to Hannah. Okay, we're getting a little bit closer, but understanding, right? So we use understanding. The cognitive potential, that is back to pretty much the original of dance and education settings, may make former skeptics, we're still using that, more accepting of it. Welcome, accepting. We changed some. Did we change enough? Do we feel in our hearts that we did the best job that we can? Are we a little bit too close to the original? Too close for comfort? How do you make that decision? That's a tricky one. You keep on working until you own it. Until it's given credit to the proper source, but it's you believing in it. When you write this down, you should almost get goosebumps and a knot in the throat because you feel it. And that's how the paper should be written. Because many times we write these papers and we turn them in on time. What is the number one reason for cheating in college? Lack of time. Why? Because we were too busy. I'm writing the paper in a rush. I'm starting to get sloppy. I'm making the mistake. So we turn in substandard work to our instructors and we say, this is our work. When you're here at the university to tell the world that you are the best in the world that exists. You are the best version of yourself that can be. Try when you write that, and then all of a sudden you write it down, a thorough understanding, because awareness is not just understanding, but it's thorough. Might be stretching a little bit, but I got one goosebump here when I wrote that, of the beneficial impact of dance education on the mental faculties. Thank you for bringing up the mind. The school children may convince those who question its value. Because the skeptics, what do the skeptics do? They question us. What did the skeptics say when you said, I'm going to the United States to study, I'm not sure you're going to make it? And you convinced your skeptics that that was not true. You are here. Success story.